The cargo bay was cold and silent. The ship moved through the endless dark of space, its engines humming like a deep heartbeat. The crew of the Odyssey thought they were alone on this journey. But they were wrong. It started with a sound. A soft, scratching like tiny claws against metal. At first the crew ignored it. Spaceships are always full of strange noises. Pipes expanding, wires shaking, panels shifting with pressure. But the sound did not stop. It grew stronger, closer. When Ensign Miller went to check the storage crates, he froze. Something moved between the shadows. A shape. Small, curled, and trembling. He lifted his flashlight. The beam cut through the dark and landed on it, a tiny alien. She was no taller than a human child, thin and fragile, her skin pale like silver glass. Her eyes were wide, glowing faintly in the beam of light. She hugged herself tightly, shivering as if the air itself was biting her skin. Miller gasped and stumbled back, his hand reaching for his communicator. "Captain, you need to come down here now." The crew gathered quickly. Captain Reyes stood at the front, her face calm but her hand resting on her blaster. Behind her, the others whispered nervously. A stowaway alien was not what anyone expected on a cargo run. The alien looked up at them, her lips trembling. She made no sound. She only shivered harder, pulling her arms close around her tiny body. "She's freezing," whispered Dr. Harlow, the ship's medic. He stepped closer, lowering his voice as if speaking to a frightened child. "It's all right. We won't hurt you." The alien's eyes flicked toward him. For a moment, something unreadable shone in them. Fear, hunger, maybe both. "Captain." Reyes gave a short nod. "Get her to the medbay, but keep her under watch." The crew obeyed. They wrapped the alien in a thermal blanket. She accepted it slowly, her trembling hands clutching the fabric. When the warmth touched her skin, she sighed, a sound too human, too familiar. It almost made the crew forget she was not like them. Almost. In the medbay. The alien sat quietly on the bed wrapped in the blanket. The ship's lights reflected off her strange skin. Her face was almost human, but too smooth, too perfect, as if it had been shaped by different hands. Dr. Harlow scanned her with his tools, frowning at the results. "Her temperature is dangerously low, but her body doesn't match any species I know. Her cells, they move differently, like they're pulling energy from the environment." "Energy?" asked Miller, uneasy. "Yes. Not food, not water. She absorbs heat." The crew exchanged looks. The alien, as if sensing their doubt, pressed the blanket tighter against herself. Her glowing eyes softened, almost pleading. "She's just trying to survive," said Dr. Harlow firmly. Captain Reyes studied the alien for a long moment. Then she gave her orders. "We give her warmth, food, shelter. But we keep watch. We don't know what she is." The alien looked at the captain, and for the first time she made a sound, a whisper, broken but clear. "Warm. Please." The crew froze. She spoke their language. That night, the ship grew restless. The alien stayed in the medbay, wrapped in layers of heat blankets. She looked small and helpless, like a lost child. Some of the crew even felt pity. But others could not sleep. Strange noises filled the ship again, scratching, humming. A faint thrum in the walls, almost like the ship itself was alive. Ensign Miller turned in his bunk, trying to ignore it. But then he heard another sound. A breath. Not human. Right outside his door. He sat up sharply. Silence. When he opened the door, the hallway was empty. Only the soft hum of the engines remained. Still he could not shake the feeling. Something had been there, watching. By morning, the crew gathered in the mess hall. Everyone looked tired. Captain Reyes entered last, her sharp eyes scanning the room. "No incidents?" she asked. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Dr. Harlow cleared his throat. "She stayed in the med bay all night. She seems weaker today, even with the blankets. If she doesn't get more warmth." He trailed off. The captain frowned. "We can spare more heat, but only to a limit. This is a cargo run, not a rescue mission." "She won't survive without it," the doctor pressed. The captain's jaw tightened. Finally, she sighed. "Give her more, but watch her closely." Back in the med bay, the alien's eyes fluttered open when the heat lamps were turned on. She stretched her thin arms, her trembling slowing. Her skin glowed faintly, brighter than before. She looked stronger. Too strong. Miller, standing guard at the door, felt a chill run through him. The way her eyes lingered on the heat lamps, it wasn't just relief. It was hunger. He whispered to himself, "What is she really?" The alien turned her glowing eyes toward him, and for just a second, she smiled. A small smile. Innocent on the surface. But beneath it, something else. Something that made Miller step back. And so, the tiny alien stayed on board the Odyssey, shivering, watching, waiting. The crew thought they had saved her, but in truth, they had only invited a new danger inside, because what she did to stay warm would not be innocent. The medbay glowed softly, filled with the hum of machines and the steady hiss of heat lamps. The tiny alien lay curled on the bed, wrapped in blankets like a fragile doll. To the crew of the Odyssey, she looked helpless, weak, lost, and innocent. But not everyone believed that picture. Ensign Miller leaned against the door, arms crossed, eyes locked on her. Something about the way she moved, slow, careful, always watching, felt wrong. She was not simply a child in need. There was more behind. Those glowing eyes. Captain Reyes entered, her boots tapping against the metal floor. She studied the alien in silence, her sharp face unreadable. Finally, she spoke. "Report." Dr. Harlow, standing beside the bed, adjusted his scanner. "Her temperature is climbing. The heat lamps are helping, but her body is strange. She's not just warming up, she's pulling energy more than she should." "Explain," the captain said flatly. The doctor hesitated. "It's like she's feeding, not just using heat to survive, she's storing it." The alien stirred at his words. Her glowing eyes opened, locking onto the doctor. Then, very softly, she whispered again, "Warm. Please." The crew shivered. The word was simple, almost desperate. But her tone carried something else, something sharp beneath the weakness. Despite their doubts, the crew followed orders. They brought her food, water, and more blankets. She accepted each gift with slow, delicate movements, her eyes wide and unblinking. But she did not eat. She did not drink. She only held the food in her hands as if testing it, studying it. The heat from the kitchen tray steamed faintly, and when she touched it, her fingers glowed. The food cooled quickly, too quickly. "She doesn't need this," Miller muttered under his breath. "She doesn't eat like us. She doesn't eat at all." "Enough," the captain cut in. "She's alive because of us. That's what matters." But Miller noticed how the alien looked at the heat lamps. Not like comfort, not like relief, like hunger. That night the Odyssey drifted through empty space, silent except for the whisper of its engines. The crew tried to sleep. Some succeeded. Others could not. Miller lay awake in his bunk, staring at the ceiling. The image of the aliens, glowing eyes, haunted him. Every time he closed his own eyes, he saw that small, too-perfect smile she had given him earlier. Then came the sound. Soft. Rhythmic. A hum, low and steady, running through the walls. He sat up quickly. The sound pulsed like a heartbeat. Alive, unnatural. He slipped out of bed and followed it down the corridor. The sound led him to the med bay. He froze outside the door. The heat lamps were brighter than before, glowing like suns, and in their glow stood the alien. She had pulled herself out of bed. The blankets lay forgotten on the floor, her thin hands pressed against the lamps, her body trembling, but not from cold, from greed. The glow of her skin pulsed with the lamps, drinking in their energy. Her eyes burned brighter, almost white. For a moment, Miller could not move. She looked different, taller, stronger. Her small frame seemed to stretch, her shoulders rising higher. It was as if the warmth was shaping her, transforming her. Then her head turned. Slowly, her glowing eyes met his. Miller's breath caught. She smiled, not the small, shy smile from before. This smile was sharp, knowing, and then the lights flickered. The medbay plunged into darkness. Alarms buzzed faintly, systems struggling to restart. Miller stumbled back, his hand searching for the communicator on his belt. "Captain," he began, but the door slid open behind him before he could finish. Captain Reyes and Dr. Harlow rushed in, weapons ready. The emergency lights flickered to life, painting the room in deep red. The alien was back on the bed, curled under the blankets, eyes half closed as if she had never moved. "She's faking," Miller whispered urgently. "She was at the lamps. I saw her. She was feeding." The captain studied the alien. She looked small again, fragile, her body trembling as though the blackout had weakened her even more. Dr. Harlow shook his head. She couldn't have. Not in her condition. Miller's fists clenched. He knew what he had seen. But the alien looked too innocent, too helpless. And now he was the one who seemed mad. Later, in the mess hall, the crew argued. "She's dangerous," Miller insisted. "She's stealing power. You think the blackout was an accident?" "She's a child," protested Dr. Harlow. "Scared and lost. We're her only chance to live." "A child?" Miller shot back. "Look at her eyes. That's not a child, it's a predator pretending to be one." The captain listened in silence, her hands folded on the table. When the shouting ended, she spoke calmly. "Until we know more, she stays. We will not throw her into space, but Miller is right about one thing. She is not what she seems. From now on, she is never left alone." Back in the med bay, the alien's eyes opened slowly once more. The crew thought she was asleep. They thought she was weak. But in truth, she was listening. Every word, every fear, every doubt. Her glowing eyes flickered, reflecting the red light of the emergency lamps. And then very softly, she whispered into the empty room, "Warm. Soon." Her lips curved upward, not in gratitude but in hunger. The Odyssey glided through the black sea of stars, its metal frame humming softly. To most of the crew, the strange alien guest now seemed calmer. Wrapped in her blankets, quiet in the med bay, she looked almost harmless again. But Miller did not sleep. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her glowing hands pressed to the heat lamps. He saw the way her body stretched taller, stronger, as if the warmth was building something inside her. And he remembered the way she smiled when she caught him watching. That smile was not innocent. The next morning, whispers ran through the ship. Lieutenant Park stumbled into the mess hall, his face pale, his eyes bloodshot. He collapsed into a chair, his hands trembling. "You look like hell," one crewman muttered. I don't feel right," Park whispered. His voice shook. "Like something drained me. I couldn't move for hours. I woke up cold, so cold." Dr. Harlow rushed him back to the medbay, scanning his body. The results made him frown. "His cells show energy loss," the doctor said quietly. "Not sickness, not infection. More like something pulled the heat out of him." The crew exchanged nervous glances. Miller's jaw tightened. "It was her. You all think I'm crazy, but look at him, she's feeding on us." The captain raised an eyebrow. "Do you have proof?" Miller slammed his fist on the table. "I don't need proof. Look at him. Look at her glowing eyes every time we step near her. She's taking from us." But again, when they went to check, the alien was curled on her bed, still shivering, looking small and pitiful. She reached out one tiny hand, whispering her same word like a broken record. "Warm. Please." And once more, doubt fell heavy in the room. That night, Miller forced himself to stay awake. He stood guard in the corridor outside the medbay, his weapon strapped across his chest. Hours passed. Silence. The only sound was the heartbeat of the ship itself. Then, he heard it. Not scratching this time. Breathing. Slow. Heavy. Coming from inside the medbay. Miller opened the door just a crack. His eyes widened. The alien was not in her bed. She was standing over Lieutenant Park, who had been moved there for observation. Her hands hovered just above his chest, her fingers glowing faintly like hot embers. Park's breath came shallow, his body twitching. His skin looked damp, his lips pale. The alien leaned closer. Her trembling was gone. Her movements were steady now, graceful, and she was smiling. Miller burst into the room, weapon raised. "Step away from him." The alien's head turned slowly. Her glowing eyes locked on him. For the first time, her voice was not weak or broken. "He is warm." The words were clear, sharp. Not a plea. A fact. Miller's finger hovered over the trigger. But then Captain Reyes stormed in, drawn by the alarm. Behind her, Dr. Harlow rushed forward. "Miller, what the hell are you doing?" the captain barked. "She's feeding on him," Miller shouted. "Look at him." But when the others looked, they saw only Park lying weak in bed. The alien sat back down quietly, curling herself into her blankets again as though Miller had interrupted nothing. "Enough," the captain snapped. "You're seeing what you want to see. Until we have proof, you will not raise your weapon against her." Miller stared in disbelief. "Proof? She's draining us right in front of you. You're all blind." The alien pulled the blankets close, eyes glowing faintly, and for just a second, only Miller saw it. Her lips curved upward, in that same knowing smile. By the next day, 2 more crew members reported weakness. Nothing deadly, but strange, like their bodies were missing something, their strength fading. The doctor tried to explain it. Stress, fatigue, the cold of space. But Miller knew. He could feel it in the air every time he stepped into the medbay. The heat wasn't just warming her, it was feeding her, and worse, she was growing. Her face, once small and childlike, seemed sharper now. Her arms looked stronger, her body taller beneath the blankets. Subtle changes, but Miller noticed every detail. The others looked at her and still saw fragility. Miller looked at her and saw a predator in disguise. That evening, the captain called a meeting. "She is not a threat," Reyes said firmly. "Not yet, but we will keep watch. Miller, you'll have your proof if she makes a move. Until then, she stays alive." End of discussion. Miller clenched his fists. Proof. That word echoed in his skull. He already had proof, but no one believed him. And he realized something chilling. If the alien wanted to, she could drain every one of them, one by one, until no one was left to stop her, unless he acted first. In the medbay, the alien sat quietly, pretending to shiver under her blankets. Her glowing eyes followed the flickering lights. She could hear their voices through the walls, their fear, their anger, their doubt. Humans thought they were clever, thought they were in control. But she was patient. Her hunger was patient too, and as she curled tighter into her blankets, her lips curved again into that secret smile. Not the smile of a child, the smile of something waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The Odyssey drifted through deep space, silent except for the hum of its engines. For days, the crew tried to keep calm, pretending that life was normal. But the unease never left them. Too many whispers in the corridors, too many tired eyes. Too many crew members feeling weak without reason, and at the center of it all was the alien. She still shivered under her blankets, still whispered her single word, "Warm, please." To most of the crew, she seemed innocent, helpless. But to Miller, her glowing eyes told another story. It began during the 3rd night after Park's collapse. The ship shook suddenly as alarms blared. The lights flickered, dimmed, then cut out, entirely. The Odyssey fell into shadow, its systems whining like a wounded beast. Power drop. Someone shouted from the control deck. Engines offline. In the darkness, panic rose. The ship was never supposed to lose that much power at once. Something was draining it fast. Miller didn't wait for orders. He grabbed his weapon and ran. His instincts told him exactly where to go. The med bay. When he burst inside, his worst fear became real. The alien was gone. Her blankets lay scattered on the floor. The heat lamps flickered weakly, their glow nearly extinguished. Miller sprinted down the corridor, following the hum that pulsed through the walls. The sound was alive, vibrating with strange energy. He turned a corner, then froze. There she was. The alien stood before the ship's engine core, her thin hands pressed against the metal casing, her body glowing brighter than he had ever seen. Streams of heat shimmered around her, flowing from the machine into her skin, and she was no longer tiny. Her body stretched taller, her limbs more defined. Her silver skin glowed with strength. Her eyes burned white, like twin stars. Miller raised his weapon. Step away from it. The alien turned slowly, her face calm, and then she smiled. You are warm too, she said, her voice now smooth, no longer broken. Miller's heart pounded. His finger trembled on the trigger. But before he could fire, the captain and Dr. Harlow arrived, drawn by the alarms. What's happening here? Reyes barked. She's draining the engines, Miller shouted. Look at her. But again, by the time they looked, the alien had pulled the blankets from a nearby shelf, wrapping herself up once more. She shrank her posture, huddled small, shivering like before. The core lights dimmed back to normal. The glow of her skin softened. She's faking, Miller yelled. She's playing us. Dr. Harlow glared at him. You're imagining things. She's barely standing. But Miller wasn't imagining. He had seen her change. He had seen her glowing, her strength rising. And he had seen that smile, cold and sharp as a blade. The next day, 2 more crew members collapsed. Pale, weak, their skin cold to the touch. Still, the others refused to blame her. She's too fragile, Dr. Harlow insisted. This is stress. We're too far from home. We're projecting our fears onto her. But Miller saw the truth written in the crew's eyes. Even if they didn't say it, they felt it, the unease, the chill, the sense that something was watching them in the dark. And then came the breaking point. During the 4th night, the alarms screamed again. Another blackout. But this time, when the lights flickered back, 2 crew members were lying on the floor, unconscious. Their skin looked ashen, drained of all warmth, and standing in the corridor was the alien. She was taller than ever now, her silver skin shining like fire in the dark. The blankets had fallen from her shoulders. She did not look fragile anymore. She looked powerful. Her glowing eyes swept across the crew, calm and sharp, and her lips curved upward into that same terrible smile. Miller shouted, You see it now, you all see it. The captain raised her blaster, her hand shaking. For the first time, doubt filled her eyes. The alien tilted her head. Her voice was soft but carried through the corridor. You gave me warmth, I only took what you offered. Her words chilled the crew more than any cold ever could. They tried to trap her. The captain ordered the crew to force her into a storage chamber. Heavy doors, thick walls. They surrounded her cautiously, weapons drawn. The alien stood still, letting them approach. Her glowing eyes softened, her voice trembling again, as if she were once more the helpless creature they had found. Please, she whispered, don't leave me in the cold. For a moment, doubt froze the crew in place. Some even lowered their weapons, but Miller barked, She's lying, do it now. The doors slammed shut. The chamber hissed as locks engaged. For the first time since she appeared, the crew let out shaky breaths of relief, but it lasted only seconds. The walls shook violently. A high-pitched hum filled the air. Then, with a blinding flash, the chamber doors warped, metal glowing red, melting as if under an invisible flame. The alien stepped out calmly, her body glowing brighter than ever. She was no longer pretending to be weak, and as she looked at the terrified humans, she whispered again. Only this time her voice carried power, not fear. Warmth. is mine. The crew finally understood. They had not rescued a helpless creature. They had invited a predator onto their ship. And now the first betrayal was complete. The Odyssey was no longer a ship of order. It was a cage holding fear. The crew avoided the corridors at night. They whispered in corners, voices shaking. 2 more members lay unconscious in the med bay, their bodies drained of warmth. Their lips were pale, their skin icy, as though death itself had touched them. And the alien walked freely. No longer did she curl under blankets like a fragile child. No longer did her voice tremble with weakness. She walked tall, her glowing eyes sweeping across the humans as if they were her prey. Every flicker of light, every blackout, every unexplained chill, it all led back to her. Captain Reyes knew something had to be done. The crew gathered in the command deck. Tension was thick, their faces pale in the dim glow of emergency lights. "She's killing us slowly," Miller growled. His voice was low but sharp, cutting through the silence. "One by one, she's feeding on us. If we don't stop her now, none of us will survive this trip." Dr. Harlow shook his head stubbornly. "She's a child in need. She doesn't know what she's doing. If we communicate—" "She's not a child," Miller snapped. His hand slammed against the table. "She's a predator. She's playing weak, so we hesitate. And every second we argue, she grows stronger." The captain silenced them both with a glare. "Enough. We set a trap." The crew leaned forward. "She wants warmth. We'll give her warmth, more than she can resist. We lure her in, then we cut her off. Lock her inside." Miller's jaw tightened. "And if she breaks out again?" The captain's eyes narrowed. "Then we finish it, one way or another." The plan was simple, too simple, but it was all they had. They prepared the cargo bay, placing the largest thermal coils around the chamber. They turned the space into a glowing furnace, a beacon of heat no creature could ignore. The alien noticed immediately. She entered the bay silently, her glowing eyes fixed on the coils. For a moment she looked almost human again, entranced, hungry, desperate. The crew watched from the shadows above, their weapons ready. "She's taking the bait," Miller whispered. The alien stepped forward, her silver skin catching the glow. She stretched her hands toward the coils and her body shivered, not from cold but from hunger so sharp it shook her frame. The captain gave the signal. The doors slammed shut. Massive locks clanged into place. The chamber's temperature dropped instantly, the coils shutting down in one strike. Darkness swallowed the bay. For a heartbeat, silence, then her scream. It was not the sound of a frightened child. It was the roar of something ancient and furious. The walls trembled as her glowing body pulsed with light. The crew braced themselves, weapons aimed at the chamber. "She's trapped," one whispered. "She can't break out this time." But Miller wasn't convinced. He had seen what she could do, and as the humming grew louder, as the walls shook harder, his gut told him the truth. She wasn't trapped. Not yet. Inside the chamber, the alien pressed her hands against the metal. Her glow flared, hot enough to make the steel groan. But this time, the humans had prepared. The walls were reinforced with a cold insulating alloy designed to starve her energy. The more she struggled, the faster her glow faded. She sank to her knees, her breaths sharp. For the first time since, she revealed her true self. She looked weak again, but this weakness was different. Her glowing eyes lifted toward the observation window, and when she saw the humans watching, she smiled. "You think you are clever," she whispered, her voice carrying through the chamber speakers. "But warmth always finds a way." Her words crawled under their skin. Hours passed. The alien remained inside, her glow dimming to nothing. Some of the crew began to relax, whispering that maybe she was finished. But Miller couldn't. He stood at the window, staring into her faintly lit eyes. "She's waiting," he muttered. "She's not done." The captain joined him. Her face was cold, her hands steady. "If she breaks free, we end it." Miller nodded slowly. This isn't just survival anymore, it's war. In the chamber, the alien curled once more, her body trembling, her glow almost gone. She whispered softly, her voice weak again. "Warm, please." It sounded like a plea. A child's voice. A voice that begged for pity. Some of the crew turned away, unable to watch. Others clenched their fists, guilt creeping into their minds. But Miller never looked away. He knew what she was doing. The plea wasn't real. It was bait. Hours later, when the ship grew quiet and the crew began to rest, Miller stayed awake. His instincts screamed at him. And he was right. In the silence, he heard it again, a hum, low, rising. The lights flickered. The alien's glow returned, brighter, fiercer, like fire breaking through ice. She rose slowly in the chamber, her body straight, her silver skin burning with new energy. She pressed her hands to the walls. This time, the alloy did not hold. Cracks spread across the steel, glowing like veins of molten light. Miller grabbed the comm. "She's breaking out. Get ready." The captain and crew raced back to the cargo bay, weapons drawn, their faces pale with fear. And inside the chamber, the alien looked up through the window, her smile wide and sharp. "Your trap is warm," she said. Then the walls exploded. The crew staggered back as heat and light burst through the cargo bay. The alien stepped out of the smoke, taller than ever, her eyes blazing like suns. She was no longer hiding, no longer pretending. The trap had failed. And now, the humans had only one choice left: to fight. The cargo bay burned with heat and fear. Smoke curled through the air where the chamber had exploded, twisted metal glowing like embers. The alien stepped through calmly, silver skin shining, her body taller, sharper, stronger than ever. Her glowing eyes scanned the humans as if choosing her next meal. The crew staggered back, weapons trembling in their hands. Captain Reyes stood firm, though her knuckles whitened around her blaster. "Open fire," she ordered. Lasers flared. Bolts of energy tore across the bay, striking the alien's body. The impacts lit up her skin, but instead of piercing, the shots only fed her glow. She laughed, a sound soft, chilling, too human to be real. "Warm," she whispered. "More." The crew froze. Their weapons had only made her stronger. Miller's stomach turned. He'd known it. He'd told them. Weapons wouldn't save them. Bullets, lasers, heat, everything she touched became hers. And then he realized the truth. If warmth was her strength, then cold had to be her weakness. "Captain," he shouted over the chaos. "The temperature controls. Drop them now." Reyes hesitated for a heartbeat, then slammed her hand on the bay controls. The vents hissed. Frost spread across the metal floor as icy mist poured into the chamber. The alien staggered. Her silver skin shivered, the glow around her flickering like a dying flame. Her lips parted in a snarl, and for the first time, the crew saw fear in her eyes. "No," she hissed. "Not the cold." The crew pressed forward, their weapons still ready, but their true weapon now the freezing air. The temperature dropped lower, every breath turning white, every sound echoing sharp in the frozen bay. The alien roared, her voice twisting between rage and desperation. She lunged toward the humans, but her movements were slower now, jerky, like a predator caught in chains. Miller fired again, not at her, but at the coolant pipes overhead. They burst, spraying liquid ice across the floor. The alien shrieked as the freezing mist wrapped around her body, dimming her glow further. "See?" Miller shouted. "She's not invincible, she can bleed." The captain's eyes narrowed. "Good. Then we bleed her dry." The humans fought smarter now. They avoided firing heat. Instead, they shattered coolant lines, sprayed freezing vapor, and forced the temperature lower with every move. The alien clawed at the air, her glowing body dimming, her tall form trembling. She tried to reach the coils of heat still glowing faintly at the edge of the room, but the crew cut her off each time, driving her back into the frost. Dr. Harlow stared in disbelief. We're winning. Miller didn't take his eyes off her. No, not yet. She's still playing. For a moment, the alien fell to her knees. Her glowing eyes flickered weakly, her hands trembling against the frozen floor. She looked small again, fragile, as if the cold had broken her. Please, she whispered, her voice thin. Don't let me die. Some of the crew faltered, their grips on their weapons loosened. Pity crept into their faces again, the same trap as before, but Miller stepped forward, his voice hard. Don't listen. She's faking. The alien's lips curved, slowly, sharply. She smiled, and then she lunged. She moved faster than before, a desperate burst of energy. She slammed into two crew members, sending them flying against the wall. Her hands burned hot again, trying to pull warmth from their bodies. But this time the captain was ready. She hit the emergency release, dropping the bay's heavy blast doors. The alien was cut off from the rest of the ship, locked in with only Miller, Reyes, and 3 crew members left inside. This ends now, the captain said coldly. The bay grew colder. Frost spread across the walls, creeping like a living thing. The alien stumbled, her glowing skin cracking faintly under the frozen air. She hissed, baring sharp teeth that had not been there before. You can't kill me. Warmth is forever. Miller raised his weapon, aiming steady. Then we'll bury you in ice. They moved together. Humans, fragile compared to her glowing strength, but clever, desperate, relentless. They triggered every coolant line, every frozen valve. The bay filled, with mist so thick they could barely see. The alien screamed, her glow flickering wildly, her body shrinking under the crushing cold. She slammed her fists against the floor, cracks spreading through the frozen steel. She fought like a beast cornered, her glowing eyes filled with rage and hunger. But still the humans pressed on, not because they were stronger, not because they were faster, but because they were human, and humans were stubborn. Finally, with one last roar, the alien collapsed. Her glowing body dimmed to a faint shimmer, her hands clawing weakly at the ice. Warm. She whispered one last time. Her voice was not angry now, not sharp, just empty. Then the glow faded. Silence filled the bay. The crew stood frozen, their breaths heavy in the cold air. For the first time since finding her, the alien looked truly lifeless. Reyes lowered her weapon slowly. Is it over? Miller didn't answer. He only stared at the frozen shape on the floor, his gut heavy with unease. Because something in him whispered the truth. This wasn't the end. Not yet. Above them, frost cracked softly on the walls. The ship groaned, and in the silence, deep within, the ice, a faint glow pulsed once more. The alien was not gone. She was waiting. The cargo bay was a tomb of frost. Cold mist still clung to the walls. Ice spread across the floor like a second skin. The alien lay motionless, her silver body half buried in frozen shards. The crew stood in silence, their breaths puffed white, in the frozen air, their faces pale and exhausted. It's over, one whispered. But Miller did not believe it. His eyes stayed locked on the alien's body. Even in stillness, she seemed alive, like a predator pretending to sleep. And then, he saw it, a pulse, faint, deep inside her chest, a tiny flicker of glow. His stomach turned. She's not dead. The captain stepped forward, her weapon aimed at the frozen figure. Her boots crunched over the ice, every step echoing in the silent bay. Then we finish it, Reyes said coldly. Dr. Harlow caught her arm. His face was pale, his voice shaking. Wait, we don't understand her. She's not just an enemy, she's life, something rare. If we kill her now, we lose any chance of knowing what she really is. Miller spun on him, furious. She's been feeding on us, she's left half the crew unconscious. Do you really want to understand that? She's intelligent, Harlow insisted. She learned our words. She begged for help. Maybe she doesn't even know what. She's doing... Miller's voice cut sharp. She knows. She's been smiling the whole time. The captain raised her weapon higher, her finger steady on the trigger, but she didn't fire. The alien stirred. The ice cracked softly as her body shifted, her eyes flickering open. The glow inside them was faint, but alive. She lifted her head, slowly, her voice weak but clear. "Please, don't leave me cold." The words hung in the frozen air. The crew froze too. Their hands shook, their hearts pounded. They had heard this voice before, soft, innocent, desperate. It was the same voice that had fooled them when they first found her, but now it sounded different. It was not weakness. It was manipulation. Reyes's jaw tightened. She had seen countless enemies in her career, pirates, raiders, mercenaries, but none had unsettled her like this fragile-looking creature. She spoke slowly, her voice steady. "You drained my crew. You used us. And now you beg for more?" The alien tilted her head. A faint smile touched her lips. "You are warm," she whispered. "I only take what I need." Miller raised his weapon, fury in his eyes. "Captain, do it now, before she grows again." Harlow stepped in front of him. "No, if we kill her, we throw away knowledge that could change everything. Think, an alien that feeds on heat. Imagine what we could learn." Miller barked back. "She's not knowledge, she's death wearing a smile." The alien rose shakily to her feet. Ice cracked and shattered around her. Her glow pulsed brighter, like a heartbeat fighting against the cold. Every crew member in the bay lifted their weapons. Reyes's hand shook for the first time. Her mind split between two paths. End the threat now, or take the risk of mercy. And in that moment she realized something. This was not a question of science, not even of survival. It was a question of humanity. "Captain," Miller said through gritted teeth, "choose. Now." Reyes exhaled slowly. The weight of command pressed, heavier than ever. She could almost feel the eyes of history watching her, waiting to see what choice humans would make in the dark. Her weapon stayed trained on the alien's chest. Her voice was low, steady, and final. "We are human. We don't survive by being stronger. We survive by being clever, and by choosing when to show mercy, and when not to." The alien's faint smile grew wider, almost daring. Reyes's finger tightened on the trigger. For a moment, time froze with the ice. Then the bay echoed with a single blast. The alien staggered, the glow in her chest exploding into a blinding flash. Her voice rang out one last time, not soft, not pleading, furious. "Warmth will return." Her body shattered into shards of silver light that scattered across the frozen floor, fading like embers in the wind. Silence fell. The crew stood frozen in place, staring at the spot where she had been. "Is it over?" one whispered. Miller lowered his weapon slowly. His eyes stayed on the shards, half expecting them to glow again. But they didn't. For now, she was gone. Reyes holstered her blaster. "Yes, but remember her words. If there are more like her, this isn't the last time humanity will face that hunger." The bay felt colder than before, though the frost was already melting. Hours later, the crew gathered in the mess hall, exhausted, shaken, but alive. Dr. Harlow sat silent, staring into nothing. Miller sat across from him, his face hard but unreadable. Finally, the captain spoke. "She gave us a choice, to pity her or to end her, and we chose survival. Never forget, kindness without caution is death in the void." No one argued. No one dared. And yet, deep in the frozen silence of space, far from the Odyssey, a faint shard of silver drifted into the dark. It pulsed once, faintly glowing, alive, waiting.